Crypto Gang? Welcome back to another episode. If you guys are new here, we do a giveaway at the beginning of every single episode, and today's winner is Con Nation. Thanks so much for commenting on the previous video with your Bitcoin wallet address. Con, I just sent you some crypto. On this very special episode, I sit down with Ian Balina, the man himself, the one that everyone knows as the guy who quit his IBM job for making millions of dollars by investing in ICOs in 2017. Currently, Ian is the CEO of TOKENMETRICS. It is effectively supercharging the spreadsheet that he made publicly available, where he was tracking all of the information about ICOs in 2017. I was one of the people that was viewing that spreadsheet, and it was nuts. The amount of people that were talking about that spreadsheet, screenshotting it, sharing it on social media, joining the actual spreadsheet itself, commenting, it was nuts. Watching that type of growth happen. The spreadsheet was definitely incredible to watch unfold. It had all of these ICOs, their returns and everything. It was nuts watching the amount that the community cared about this spreadsheet. And Ian rolled out TOKENMETRICS to basically accommodate at scale for this next run up. When people want to learn more about these different types of investments, they're going to be able to find them on TOKENMETRICS. So Ian and I first met in Miami when we were at the North American Bitcoin Conference. We had some drinks, hung out in this penthouse party. It was a lot of fun in Miami, and we talked about a lot of different things around investing in general. And I've worked with a couple of his companies, including MetaHash, in the past. It was great to catch up with Ian and talk about different things, like when he met Min Kim, the founder of ICON. When he talks about delegated proof of stake, we talked about his story and just an overview of catching up with the man himself. So without further ado, let's dive into my interview and catch up with Ian Balina. What's up, everybody? I'm here with the legend Ian Balina. How you doing, Ian?
Doing well, thank you. How about you?
Doing great. Doing great. So a lot of listeners and viewers as well probably know your backstory, but for everybody that's new to your background, can you tell us a little bit about where you came from and how you found out about crypto and how you got involved?
Yeah, so I was born in Kampala, Uganda, in East Africa. Came to America when I was 8 years old with my family. My dad went to Penn State to pursue his doctorate in civil engineering. So he brought the whole family with us. We stayed there for about 4.5 years. Then we're like, you know what? We like America, right? So we ended up staying, not going back. We just felt there was a lot more opportunity here in America. Moved to Maryland, and I have been there for the last over 20 years, I think. No, sorry, 15 years or so. So I was there 15 years, went to school in DC, GW, George Washington University, majored in engineering, computer engineering, first like computers, technology, IT. I began programming when I was in 7th grade, 12 years old, initially just to kind of make my own games, right? Because basically I wanted to play games, but didn't really have enough money as a kid to buy all the games I wanted. So I said, let me learn how to make a game. Maybe I can make my own game. So that's when really the curiosity in technology and computers was born. And it kind of led me down this rabbit hole, right? Being a computer engineer, then working as an IT consultant at Deloitte, then working as a sales engineer at IBM under the IBM Analytics brand and IBM Cloud. Then my last year there, I was IBM sales executive under IBM Open Source Analytics, right? So for me, working with data and analytics has kind of been my career in the corporate world, right? And during that process, a friend of mine who I was friends with in DC, I met up with him in San Francisco, and he was asking me about what IBM was doing in the blockchain space. And I knew IBM was talking about blockchain, but I didn't really know much of it, right? Because my specialty was more IBM analytics and open source. So he wanted me to put him in touch with the director of blockchain at IBM. I didn't know who the hell this guy was, right? Because IBM is a huge company, right? Over 100,000 employees globally, right? So just cold calling some director to put him in touch with your buddy from college, right, is a hard sell. So I said, the best I can do is maybe just give you like his business card or what have you, right? But tell me why you care about this blockchain thing. So he told me he was a Bitcoin developer and he was really into Bitcoin and he was launching his own crypto fund. And I looked at him, I said, you're my age, you're 27 years old. What are you doing launching a hedge fund? Because to me, the notion of somebody young launching a hedge fund was unheard of, right? Because I imagine who owned hedge funds or were managing hedge funds were old people on Wall Street, right? So that really kind of got my curiosity going. And I've always been an entrepreneur, a businessman. I like making money. And I have a very big appetite for risk. I'm a big risk taker. It's just kind of the nature of being an entrepreneur. So I had dabbled in investing. I dabbled in penny stocks and gotten wrecked. I was basically investing in marijuana penny stocks back, I think, around 2013 or so, when regulation was just kind of ramping up and it was kind of getting the go ahead, right? So I was trying to be early on that, and I got taken to the cleaners, got so jaded when it came to investing, and I basically stayed away for like 2 years or so until crypto happened, right? So as I was talking to my friend Eric, who's actually ended up going to become the founder of Red Art Network, which is I guess now kind of infamous ICO. So he kind of just showed me, he's like, here, just go on Coinbase, buy some crypto, buy some Bitcoin. And that was pretty much how I got involved. Because for me, what really kind of made me try it out, I'm pretty direct with people. I think it's just kind of the nature of being an engineer. Right? We're just kind of all about the numbers and the facts. So I said, just be honest with me. How much money are you making? And he told me he was making 200% just hodling Bitcoin and Ethereum. And that was a lot more than I was getting in my 401k and the stock market. So I said, okay, you know what? Let me dabble in this and see what's going on here. Right. So I put $100 into Ethereum, $100 into Bitcoin on Coinbase. Then I said, okay, now I own a piece of crypto, right? Bitcoin and Ether. I have to know what the stuff is. So I went on Amazon, got the two best books at that time on the crypto space, The Age of Cryptocurrency and Digital Gold. Read the books over the course of 3 months or so, and it gave me a good foundational history of where crypto came from, where it was at that time, and where the future was going. And from there, I kind of went all in. A few months later, the more I learned of it, the more I got involved, went to conferences, met people, joined Telegram groups, began making content around the crypto space, kind of educating people about Bitcoin, Ethereum, and then eventually ICOs. Then I became known as the ICO guy. And then I ended up quitting my job and going full-time into crypto. And now I've been full-time in crypto for the last 2 years.
That's fantastic. That's fantastic. And that transition from when you were going from Bitcoin and Ethereum into ICOs, what did that look like? I know that you had a legendary spreadsheet that I remember watching and everything. What was that transition like for you? Were you dealing directly with the teams, or did you have someone helping you on your team that was sourcing them?
So at that time, I was dealing directly with the team, right? So in terms of sourcing, I would typically get leads from my network, right? From other investors I would meet from going to different events like the Token Summit and other events, and then through friends of friends. And then as I kind of built up a big community, the community would basically give me projects to research and look into. And then every now and then I'd find a good project that would end up kind of doing well and kind of getting more awareness and coverage, right? So it's kind of more like a from the ground up approach where people would just kind of come through me. I didn't really have a formal process of having people send me products. We just kind of more through my Telegram group and people I knew.
That's cool. That's very cool. Almost like a consensus using community.
Yeah. So I'm actually, so just speaking of consensus, that's how ICON came to me. I think somebody in my private mastermind group told me about ICON, right? Because they were looking into it. Then I looked into it myself and I was like, oh wow, this is actually a pretty good project, right? So ended up becoming an investor and ended up meeting, I was flying to San Francisco for Blockstack Summit, I believe. Yeah, Blockstack Summit. This was 2017. Yeah, 2017, 2 years ago. Went to Blockstack Summit. Turns out Min Kim, who I was talking to via email, is in San Francisco. So I meet him for lunch. We have like an hour-long lunch and ended up investing, and the rest is history.
Yeah, we just had Min Kim on the show like last week, and he's a really bright guy. Very profound background in Deutsche Bank and traditional finance, bringing it into this space, and very, very good vision for what they could do to hyper connect the world. And in terms of, I've mentioned in the past, like a project that I'm working on, AC3, is a PREP candidate. And the delegated proof of stake concept to me is pretty mind-bendingly cool. And it's not really talked about very much. So from your perspective, like what excites you about things that are delegated proof of stake, and what projects in that space, including ICON, are you excited?
Yeah. I mean, I think just the fact that they're trying to innovate on what's already been done and trying to make it better, right?
Mm-hmm.
So in terms of projects that I've worked with that kind of have a similar model, MetaHash, a project I'm an investor and advisor in, right? It's kind of a hybrid between a DPoS and the DAG. Other than that, I would say probably also Loom Network, I believe, is also DPoS, right? So there are a handful of projects I've kind of worked with that are doing the same thing, right? ICON obviously as well. And I think it's just the fact that they're trying to create faster blockchains, faster protocols that people can actually use and build on, right? Because we all know Ethereum has its issues where as more people try to use the value of Ethereum, they actually get less value because it clogs up and becomes too slow, right? So I think it's a foundational problem that has to be solved. And it's good to have lots of entrepreneurs, lots of teams working together, smart minds trying to solve and tackle this problem, right? Because it's kind of like whoever solves this could get a huge win and huge market share in the crypto space.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I've heard a lot of speculation around it's how an effective government could operate. You have these elected people working on governance on chain, helping support everything, and they're 100% fluid. Like they can be voted out, they can be voted in, and it's just a really remarkable thing.
Yeah, I mean, I'm kind of on the fence when it comes to that model, right? Because I know people in crypto, kind of myself as well, really like the true decentralization.
Mm-hmm.
But I also know that it's hard to have true decentralization, right? Bitcoin is the closest we have, right? But I know, for example, people had issues with EOS, right? EOS and how they're kind of tackling it and how it's pretty centralized, even though it's a handful of actors or people who kind of control the nodes, right? I think one time, I think 1 or 2 years back, they were able to reverse the transaction, right? And it kind of became like a mini scandal, right? So I think it definitely depends on how the governance is, right? Governance is definitely crucial.
Yeah,
systems like that.
Yeah, and now I remember that was EOS, right? Where
yeah.
they reversed transactions. That was because they've noticed all sorts of really interesting findings, like that cartels formed in the block producers because they were like, if you and I have nodes and we're making $100,000 worth a week, obviously, if you vote for me, I'll vote for you, and we'll keep each other in power.
Yeah, I think it's kind of hard to prevent that. It's just kind of regular relationships that happen from doing business together and anything, right? Any business venture, there are always coalitions and partnerships, right? I've actually met some block producers for EOS in LA, and I was pretty impressed. Like the whole operation. So we go to their house in LA. It's a nice house. It's kind of like that show Silicon Valley, right? A bunch of like hackers and crypto investors. So I think the first floor is a crypto fund, right? And I think the second part of the house is just purely developers and coders, right? So it's kind of like two businesses under one house. And they're like, yeah, this entire house is paid for by the block producer we have, right? And that really got me thinking about staking, right? So ever since then, I was like, wow, we're in a bear market, and this entire house they have is being paid for by their staking.
Yeah, it's a unique thing. I haven't met any EOS block producers yet, but hopefully soon enough. So that's a good segue into what you're working on. What are you working on in the crypto space right now?
So kind of what you mentioned earlier. So people know me a lot for my spreadsheet, but I took that down publicly, basically at the peak of the bull market in January 2018. I guess, so the reason I took it down, the demand was just insane. I was getting millions of views a month, and the spreadsheet could not scale. The API calls in there through the crypto finance plugin were breaking. And then people were basically clamoring for it, even though it was a free product, right? So there were so many different factors to kind of take into account that it was hard to maintain doing that with all the different issues scaling. So I took it down, and for the last almost 2 years, I've kind of been saying, okay, how can I make something more efficient that scales? So I've been working on that now, right? It's now called TOKENMETRICS. So I'm now the founder and CEO of TOKENMETRICS.com. And the idea is we're building a data-driven crypto investment research platform. So this is a dynamic web application that we've built from scratch, from the ground up. Think of this as kind of like a morning star for crypto, right? So my spreadsheet was basically the MVP, right? It showed that there was a need in the market for this. People were willing to access the spreadsheets, even pay for it. So the idea is to kind of make something better that's more dynamic, that's custom built, right? So right now we're in early private testing with a few people. The idea is to eventually launch, not sure yet, maybe end of the year, maybe even earlier, who knows? But I think it's definitely very exciting. I've been working 12 to 16 hours a day, 6 to 7 days a week on this. And it's basically my baby. Like, I've put everything else on the side to just focus on this, right? Because in 2018 and even this year, I didn't really do much content because I was doing the Crypto World Tour in 2018. We had 35 countries in 12 months, meeting lots of different people in the crypto space. And now we think we have the relationships to really kind of take this to the next level.
Cool. So the idea behind that was sparked by the original spreadsheet where you were tracking ICOs and everything like that. So in terms of where people can find out more information, where can they check out to find more?
So they can go to tokenmetrics.com and join the email list, the wait list, right? And we'll kind of keep you up to date on news and whenever it's good to launch. We also have our Telegram group. We just launched it about 1 month ago. Has over 2,000 people already. Just go on Telegram and search TOKENMETRICS. We have a discussion group and an alerts group. And I mean, so people knew the spreadsheet for ICOs. And now with TOKENMETRICS, the idea is we'll have the same thing. So we'll definitely have IEOs. And right now we think we'll have the IEO portion free, right? Because people kind of know me as giving that out to the community for free. So we kind of want to still have an option available to everybody out there who's just getting started. But now we're getting that same model of analyzing tokens and applying it to tokens already trading on exchanges, right? Because we think that's really where the value add is, right? Because everybody knows ICOs went up, then came down, right? But you don't always have to invest in that hot new ICO, or that, right? It's kind of like that shiny object syndrome. What if there are 2 or 3 or 5 other projects already on exchanges that have more liquidity, that are better projects? Right, so we think this really opens up the entire TOKENMETRICS community, because we're looking at now over several hundreds of projects, right? Eventually, thousands of projects we can look at, and then also automate the analysis, right? There's some parts that are automated, like the technical analysis and the signals, and then being able to backtest that and make sure it's working, right? So the idea with the platform, everything's going to be data driven. So the same thing my audience has known me for doing, being very, very data driven and focused, we're bringing that to the platform, right? So the idea is for everything to be data driven. We have a machine learning engineer going through and backtesting everything to make sure that it's pretty accurate. We have prediction models, and we have a bunch of other things we're also working on that I can't really discuss yet until we have the legal go ahead. But we're definitely very excited, and we think it's something that's going to shock the crypto world.
That's great. And one bonus question. I have a lot of entrepreneurs on here, founders, and I always like to ask if you could tell 18-year-old Ian something right now to get started. What would you tell somebody, 18-year-old Ian or an 18-year-old listening to this that's about to start a business? What would you share?
Oh, wow. Good question. What would I tell 18-year-old me? I mean, 18-year-old me was pretty active too. I was very entrepreneurial then too. I mean, I would say just build, take action, right? I would say what really separates people who achieve their dreams or goals and those who may not is really consistent action, right? So for me, one thing I try to do every day, I try to have one win every day, right? No matter how big or how small, right? I try to do something where at the end of the day, I can say, okay, am I proud of today, right? What big win do I have, right? So it could be as small as, hey, I got this problem solved, right? Let's say you're an entrepreneur, right? And first thing you're trying to do is build a website, right? So maybe the big win of today is getting the domain name. And maybe the next day it's getting the WordPress installed or the Squarespace or what have you, right? So kind of taking a big goal, breaking it up into small incremental steps, right? That you can basically, it's kind of like a milestone, right? Every single day is a milestone, right? You want to have something accomplished, right? No matter how small, because if you do that, as investors, we all know compound growth, right?
Yeah.
If you compound that annually, it's incredible, right? That's how you really get to achieve your dreams and really get those big levels of success.
That's great. And it's funny that you would say that take action and do one win a day, because I sold my business to Max Levchin, the founder of PayPal, in 2014. And he had that exact same advice. He literally said every morning he wakes up and he cycles, like he gets on his bike and cycles. So no matter how many losses he takes throughout the day, at least he had a good win in the morning. And he knows that he can always refer back to that. So that's great that you guys have the same advice for young people.
Yeah.
Cool, Ian. Well, thanks so much for your time. And definitely, if you guys are listening, check out TOKENMETRICS. I'm excited to check it out myself. Thanks again, Ian.
All right. Thank you, Steve.
That's it for my interview with Ian Balina. The guy's a total legend and very valuable to the space as a whole, bringing an analytical background from very large companies like IBM, bring him into the crypto space for investing is such a key component to the space as a whole. So that's it for this episode. I hope you guys like it. Slap a like if you did. Don't forget to subscribe for more awesome content like this one. And I will see you guys on the next episode of Hack Crypto.